Hey, welcome to another typology interview. We have host Eric from Talking with Famous People. How's it going, Eric?
Going great. Thank you for having me, Benjamin.
Yeah, thanks for coming out. I appreciate it. So, yeah, tell us a little bit about your history in typology because we know you're really heavy into it and never really got your history.
Well, back in my early 30s was the first time I'd ever heard of MBTI. And I'm 47 now, so that's probably 15, 16 years ago, something like that. And I found on the internet a MBTI test of sorts, some sort of MBTI test. I don't remember if I took the test or not, but I ended up reading all the type descriptions and concluding that I was ENTP. But at the time, there wasn't really any information about cognitive functions. So it was quite an emotional experience for me to realize that there was this thing called personality types out there and that I fit into this one so clearly because prior to that, I hadn't really understood what was wrong with me. But like I said, there's not really anything about cognitive functions, so I just sort of let it sit there. That was all there was to it.
Right. So when did you start getting into the cognitive functions and stuff?
Well, that wasn't until I started this YouTube channel, and it was when I was about 42 years old, I think. And um, I initially started the channel because I wanted a better way of keeping my various audio musings, which were sort of like notes for a book or whatever, um, just keeping them organized or archiving them better. So I decided to start uploading my audio only stuff to YouTube, but very quickly I decided, well, why am I still doing audio only? Why don't I just record a video and upload it, since it's just me talking anyway? And so then I started doing that, making various philosophy videos. One day I made a video on being an ENTP because I discovered at that point I was doing some random research on something and came across cognitive functions. And at that point I was like, oh, this is a lot more interesting with cognitive functions in the mix.
Right.
So I made a video about it. It's like the first ever MBTI video I made, and it basically goes, okay, so I'm an ENTP, and looking at this thing here, that means I have extroverted intuition as a first one. I think what that means is this. It's like me like reading off the internet
Yeah,
about what it might mean. It's a very beginning, very
right.
beginner.
Cool, man. And then you started getting heavy into like defining the terms and really trying to be precise about all of the terms and stuff. When did that start?
Well, after that first video did well and did better than my other videos, the first video that I actually got any kind of an audience for, and I was like, oh, what's this? I never
Right.
really started with the anticipation I'd ever have an audience of any sort, of just kind of an archiving thing for me. But I wanted one if I could. I assumed it would be impossible to acquire one, but I thought, well, geez, if people want to see this, and I'll make more videos about this topic. So in order to make more videos about it, I had to learn some things about it. So
Funny how that works.
yeah, read about it a bunch. And then I started my first sort of adjustment or what would be the word? Re reformulation of the basic cognitive function idea, which was called KERF at the time, and it didn't end up making sense ultimately, so I had to scrap it. But I worked quite a ways into it before I scrapped it and
Oh,
realized, no, there's a lot of problems with this. So, you know, but I still have videos up from that period where I'm saying they're full of wrongnesses that I'm saying, but that's fine, you know. And then
right.
gradually over time, I developed different approach, and that didn't really work either. And then finally, at last, I said, maybe I need to strip this down to the basics here and try to figure this out more basically. And now I think I got it down pretty good.
Yeah. Cool, man. So can we talk about your cognitive functions a bit, like how you see them express themselves in your life and stuff?
Sure.
So we can start with your NE. How do you see your NE express itself in your day-to-day life?
Well, I guess I would say that I spend the majority of time ideating as I go through my day. So if I'm driving in the car, for example, I'm often thinking about something that I'm going to make a video about later
Right.
and trying to figure out like where all the ideas ahead of time. I'm usually not operating, I'm sort of operating 6 hours behind my thinking with my talking. Like, I tend to think things out before I extrovert them to the world and say them out loud.
Okay.
And so a lot of my time is spent sort of preparing what I'm going to say later or considering considering things that I might say and then going, no, I shouldn't say that because that'll contradict with this, or basically like that. I do that all
Right.
day
Do
in
you
my.
plan it out like with your docs and stuff first, or more just in your head?
I mean, sometimes I do docs and sometimes I don't. Like this morning, I had what I thought was a good vision for a singular document that overviewed everything. That started with a quote unquote prime directive, and so I made the document. But then the other day, I had a similar video because I repeat myself a lot. I repeat myself a lot because I got bad SI, because I got fourth slot SI, and
Yeah.
I can keep going over the same ideas, saying them a slightly different way. It'll feel new enough to me, and I don't really notice that I'm just sort of going over the same things again. So
Yeah.
it's just how it rolls, being in any
But your SI does seem like you've developed it quite a bit, because like you do have your like all of the definitions that you're developing. Like I see on in your docs that you're really refining your definitions. That's definitely some kind of SI, isn't it?
I would say that's a TI thing, and it's specifically a TINE approach towards generation of ideas. That is to say that when I generate an idea that has a definition to it, it's got to fit correctly in with the other definitions without creating any sort of contradiction or conflict. So
Right.
that's a TI checking matter.
The
Now the
contradictions.
SI,
Yeah.
it is true that I have to keep track of my own ideas and ideas that I read externally, other people's ideas or whatever that I'm going to utilize. I have to keep track of them. So that's part of the point of the repetition as well, is because I go over, it's like, let's say this is 10 yards of space I want to cover. Well, then I'll go over, the first 3 yards, then yards 2 through 4, then yards 3 through 5. So it's like everything gets covered like 3 times as I'm gradually moving forward. And in
Right.
that regard, it starts to stick with my SI, and I remember it, and I'm doing the same thing every time. So I'm not ideating novelty where I shouldn't be. Where things are settled and solid, I should leave them as they are and remember what they are.
I gotcha. What about your FE? Are you using that at all? Because
Um, it depends. I
yeah.
noticed that in videos where I'm more actively aware of FE things, and even if I just put a few little things in, it makes a big difference, such as.
Right.
So anyway, this is my perspective on it. Obviously, you guys may have a different perspective, and
Okay.
I'd love to hear your thoughts on this in the comments at the end. Just saying some shit like that makes a big difference in terms of number of thumbs. So I try to remember to do that, but it's my FE is often late.
I gotcha.
It's I think of my third slot function as being perpetually late to the party. Occasionally, it shows up in time to prevent me from making some faux pas, but it really shows up in time to make the smart social move, which is more proactive approach. It's enough to
Right.
stop me from making a critical error, but not enough to stop me from not enough to allow me to do the right social thing necessarily.
Do you think it helps you in reading people and typing them?
Oh, I mean, not really. Yes, sort of, I guess, but I don't think of it as FE as being really a process reading function so much as as an interface attending function. So I guess it will help me read whether somebody else has FE depending on where it is in the stack. If it's in the first slot, I mean, if FI is in the first slot, it can be tough to tell.
Yeah. Cool, man. So you're starting to do typing business. Is this something that's new, or is it something you've always wanted to do, or?
I've been doing it for quite a while, actually. Just I never really promoted it much.
Right.
I've probably been doing it for a solid year now. People have been paying me to do it occasionally.
Right.
Picked up quite a bit. It helped to make a bunch of videos attacking DSP.
Yeah,
That
yeah. No, I noticed there's a bunch of people from the DSP stuff that come over to you to get typed because they're having a problem with their typing. Yeah.
yeah, well, that's I mean, it's like there are going to be individuals who are more content with one approach or the other based on their own function stacks and biases, probably.
Yeah. Cool. So what's all this music and music stuff you're doing? You're doing a lot of it seems like half comedy, half serious, or like are you serious about your music or?
Oh, I'm very serious about it. I mean, I
Yeah.
do make some sort of, I guess you'd say, fun songs or
Right.
lighthearted. I make occasional songs that you might call comedy songs, but I consider most of my songs to be fairly lighthearted in mood, many of them. Some
Right.
of them are more serious, but I consider all of my compositions to be serious compositions regardless of the mood. And I've been working on music now for 26 years, trying to get better at it and trying to get better at recording it and trying to get better at songwriting and trying to get better at lyric writing. And things have really begun to progress a lot over the last couple of years as my songwriting has really started to kick into gear, and I'm getting pretty good at it. It's one of those things where there's, I mean, I guess for NI Dom something might be different, but from my perspective, there's no substitute for years of struggle and experience to getting the ins and outs of something.
Right. Cool. Um, you were you're doing a bunch of I don't know how are you trying to develop your channel these days, and what's sort of your goal, or have you met your goal sort of thing, or do you have a goal?
I mean, when I first started the channel, my plan was make a big pile of videos about all kinds of different things and see what happens.
Really, any randomness?
Yeah, basically. You know? Then as I started making the channel and I ended up having meetings with people like you're having with me right now,
Right.
trying to do one-on-one stuff, but ended up with a lot of group things. Uh, I ended up making this thing called the Raw Room, which was a channel, which was the TWFP Raw channel that recorded the conversations that whoever was having in that room were having at any given time, 24/7, and then uploaded those conversations in 15-minute chunks to a channel on YouTube. Auto uploaded them. Right. I actually hired somebody to make this thing for me.
Oh wow. Okay.
So, and it produced videos for years of just people's random conversations in that room, sort of like a big meta art project or something. And then fucking YouTube suspended the channel and took it down and took down all of my fucking content that was years of built up recordings of those people. And it makes me very sad. But I still have the
Wow.
Raw 2 channel, which has the equivalent kind of recordings. It just stopped recording about a year ago. And
Did they ever give a reason why they did it?
spam. They said,
Oh,
it's
okay.
like, the thing is, I would have been absolutely fine if they shut down the channel and said you cannot upload to this channel anymore. Fine, but let me keep all that content. That's bullshit. They stole it all away and destroyed it, I guess.
Right. That sounds like an interesting project, actually.
It
Yeah.
was. It provided me, and for a long time before I started really live streaming with the channel, and I like live streaming a lot now when I interact with people in the chat. That's a lot of fun for me. But before that, I used to go into the Raw Room and I'd hang out and have conversations with people in there and make videos in there with them. And there was a stretch of time when I was hanging out in there like, 18 hours a day or something. The amount of time that I was awake, basically.
Right.
Uh, and but now, of course, my interactions with people are more via the live stream. I don't really go into the Raw Room anymore. And now that we don't have a channel, I can't upload it anymore. And my art project's broken and all the content's lost. It makes me sad. But I still put the link to the Raw Room there, and people still go there. I got an email from somebody today saying she'd just gone into the Raw Room for the first time and had a good time talking to Mark.
Cool. So, what do you think about the best way to start learning MBTI or cognitive functions would be for anyone who's new to coming into it?
Well, I would say that in general, the kind of people who are going to be really interested in cognitive functions are primarily going to be intuitives, with a couple of exceptions here and there. But as a consequence, it depends what kind of intuitive they are. If you're an NTJ, you'll probably favor some more utilitarian calculus of type. And that's going to be something more along the lines of C.S. Joseph or DSP. If you're an NTP or an INFJ, you're likely to favor mine because it's more TI approach. If you're an ENFJ, could go either way. If you're a sensor, You're probably like an ESTP, maybe, probably a beta quadra sensor that's interested. And I probably ESTPs will be siding with me, and the ESFPs with GSP, I would guess.
I see. So like you're drawing some lines in the sand here of like what types go to what content sort of thing?
Well, sure, because I mean, types that value TI are going to value my approach to it. Types that value TE are going to value Dave's approach to it.
So why do you think TI would value your approach better?
Well, because mine's more logically sound, but his is more operationally active,
All right.
which is to say it's got more protocols and shit to it, right?
Right.
And they're more tool based, utility based. So it's going to appeal to people who understand logics via utility, namely TE users, and it's going to, because Dave, regardless of what he says he is an ENTJ.
Okay. How have you typed him? How do you know that that's true? Yeah, that's another question I have. How
I
do you?
don't know for
Yeah.
sure because
Okay.
listen, I've not formally typed him.
Right.
So
Right.
I want to make this distinction. I only really know for sure what somebody's type is if I've formally typed them and say I've concluded for sure this is what their type is. If
Right.
that's the case, then I will say yes, I'm sure about this. In Dave's case, I've not formally typed them, so I'm not sure. But I'm saying he's got too much FE for an INTJ, and he's definitely a TE user of some sort.
Okay. So,
So probably
how do you usually go about typing people? Basically, like if they fit a pattern, or trying to recognize their cognitive functions, or if they fit
yeah,
into.
I try to pull out the various processes that are associated with the functions, plus understand how they value things. So if I'm going to ask them something like, which value do you prefer when they conflict, utility or consistency? They might say consistency, or they might say utility. Their answer is not, it doesn't mean anything. That's not what I'm looking to. Then I ask them, well, why did you choose that one? And their explanation as to why will be very revelatory. And sometimes people who are actually utility preferers will choose consistency, but their explanation will reveal that there's a utilitarian calculus underneath there. So and it helps to be a debate coach, I am long practiced in recognizing the many different forms of argumentation that people can possibly make. And in fact, I've even come up with a set of criteria that you can generate out of the cognitive functions. As to say, you can make arguments that appeal to each of the values implicit to the functions. Ones that appeal to novelty or singularity, or solvency, which is TE, or consistency, which is TI, or social agreement, which is FE, or individual authenticity, the uniqueness of the individual, FI. You can come up with frames that comprise criteria in debate for each of those cognitive functions. So recognizing how people argue and what frames they typically default back towards is a good way to distinguish function processes.
Right. You mentioned a lot of like mostly judging functions here. So is this also the same thing for observing functions, for perceiving functions?
Well, for SI and NI, I typically differentiate between the two by asking an individual to talk to me about their past. For example, Benjamin, how were you? What were you like 15 years ago? Were you a nice guy or a mean guy?
Uh, probably, probably not very interactive with people, but yeah, probably nice if you actually got to talk to me. Yeah.
So what would make you think you were nice back then if you got to talk to you?
um, like I try to see the best in people, and I want to, I don't know, and I sort of want the best for them usually. But I don't know.
So what you just revealed to me there with your answers didn't reveal anything, but your
Right.
style revealed that you're not an SI user. You're
Right.
not giving any specific examples. You don't seem to have a very clear understanding of your own past or in terms of examples. And so
Right.
that means using the non-exemplifying epistemology, which is NI
Yeah, that's
instead of
good.
SI, conscious
Yeah, that's
self.
good. I like that. Yeah.
So that's one thing I would do to start by differentiating on the SINI. Now SENE is a lot trickier to differentiate directly, but you can test NE directly by saying like, here's a couple of story starters. Can you please build off of them. And then depending on how easily it does, you can get some information about it. SE, I don't know how to deal with directly, so I always go about it indirectly. I infer from other things rather than the thing I look for directly. Same with FI, because it's my polar and particularly
Yeah.
bad at understanding what it is.
SE2 would be like one of your weakest. So
Well, it's my eighth, which in
yeah.
my understanding of things is actually not a weak function. It's the
Oh, okay.
balance. It's the one that you don't misuse, you don't overuse, you don't underuse, you don't really like it, you don't really value it, but it comes out and does its job when it's supposed to. So that's my understanding of the eighth
That's your
function.
understanding. Okay. Yeah, I have a
Yeah.
different understanding, but okay, that's interesting. That's an interesting understanding at least. Yeah. Cool. So like do you have any I don't know, any anything that you're trying to get out of this, anything that you're trying to accomplish with this, like any final purpose for this, or it's just sort of having fun as, a hobby or something like that?
I mean, I've got some long-term goals that are much grander than being a typologist for sure.
Right.
Um, I'd like to be president of the
Yeah.
United States.
I heard that. Yeah.
So obviously, I'm going to need a larger platform than 5,000 subscribers to get some sort of impetus rolling there. But also, it's nice to be able to generate some additional income from the typing because I can put that away for campaigning expenses at some point. And I do plan on actually winning the presidency, which is going to be a bit tricky because obviously there's a lot of footage of me saying various things that some people might not think are going to play well in an ad. But keep in mind that my language choice is always very careful. I never actually say anything that anybody can condemn. No, no incitations to violence or anything like that. So it's just going to be a matter of trying to engage my opponents as much as possible. I can engage them rhetorically, directly. I will win the election because they cannot stand with me.
Okay. But like for example, Trump had no problem winning the election, even though he was controversial and had a bad history with certain things he was
Right.
saying.
I
And
think there's
yeah.
going to be a pendulum swing in the other direction there for it.
Yeah, yeah.
They're going to resist anything that seems squirrely and they're going to look for something that seems more mainstream.
Makes sense.
So, I mean, my job is going to have to be to make everybody else look squirrely by their incompetence. Because the one thing I know I can do in any rhetorical exchange with any politician I might come across as an opponent is soundly defeat them and make them look like an idiot if need be. So, I mean, I will go about trying to do that until I can generate sufficient attention that you know that people are comparing me against the alternatives, which is what I want. And I think if they do, they'll vote for me because I'm a better choice.
Okay. Hey, that's pretty ambitious. That's good. So do you have any like milestone goals that you need to achieve to get that?
No, I don't really work in that way.
No.
It's just sort of a general direction, and then we'll see how the steps to get there manifest as they manifest. I don't have a specific plan. I do have some timetables. Like right now, my mom is um, she has dementia and she's declining, and I'm having to provide a lot of assistance to my dad as far as caregiving and stuff. So that's going to be occupying probably another year or two of my time here, and I'm just going to have to deal with that as a son's duty, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah.
But and then after that resolves in its inevitable fashion, then I will be somewhat freed up to pursue other matters.
Right. Cool, man. So what are your plans with your music? Like that, it's kind of interesting to me. Like, do you want to get a band going, or are you just having fun with it,
Well,
or?
I mean, yes. Do I want to get a band going? Yes, but again, there's a certain amount of things predicated on resources. So I've had a TWFP band before. We played one show, and since then I've got a lot of different songs that I prefer to play than I did back then. I would like to actually be physically able to hire professional musicians to come and learn everything real quick and be there, so I don't have to practice much, right? And get them to do all the heavy lifting with the music. I just sing and then I, try to get some gigs and shit. But I could do legwork for that kind of stuff now without financing it directly, but it's not worth the extra effort when it's so much of an effort savings. If I can financially do the thing I'm talking about doing, it would be much better.
Okay,
So
cool. What's the meaning behind that name, by the way? Talking with famous people.
it actually started out as like I said at some point earlier, I made a bunch of audio recordings of me just talking through shit. Some of them were just sort of comedy things or joking around, and one of them was me interviewing two of these characters I made up called the International Delight and Pucker Tart Lemon Squeeze. And the International Delight is a guy who he has a German accent and he goes around the world solving various problems. For example, he went to Singapore and he solved the national problem that their drinks were too sweet. And what he recommended was they put less sugar in them. Anyway, his friend is Pucker Tart Lemon Squeeze, who's a guy with a lemon as a head. And Pucker Tart Lemon Squeeze, he's very obsessed with things that are tart and things that are sour. So, for every problem that he and International Delight encounter, Pucker Tart Lemon Squeeze always suggests, maybe we should use something tart. And International Delight goes, Pucker Tart, listen, not all the problems of the world can be solved with tartness or sourness. Some things we have to use other solutions. Anyway, I was interviewing those two guys as just sort of joking around with myself. And I decided as I was beginning the interview, I said, I've got a wonderful guest here today. International Delight is here on talking with famous people. And I just decided to go with that as the name of it. I thought it was funny. So I just said,
Yeah.
I'm going to call the whole channel Talking with Famous People. And it's been called that ever since. I kind of envision I do more interviews and stuff, but I just haven't ended up doing that. That's not what the viewership has demanded.
Yeah, right. Okay, so talking about that, you have like a lot of guests and people that sort of come to hang out with you and do your content with you. Where do you get them all from?
I don't know. I just sort of encountered them, ran into them in the world or something. I'm always throwing seeds, saying
Right.
things. Well, if you feel like making a video, just shoot me a Facebook message and we'll do it and we'll see how it turns out or whatever. Especially INFJs because I like working with INFJs.
Right.
They're
Oftentimes they ask you too.
Yeah, a lot of times they ask me, or but like I said, I throw out a lot of seeds. Most people aren't super bold and be like, "Can I make a video with you?" So usually I'll have to suggest it in some fashion that it's available, and then they'll probably take me up on it if they're a more extroverted leaning INFJ.
Right. So like you strictly INFJs, is that what you're looking for or
No, I'm
no?
just saying, like if the regular ones, when I make video with regular like Amber and Anthony, they're both INFJs, and there seems to be a natural working relationship that kind of persists. However, like it wasn't that long ago, an ENFP texted me or called me, I don't remember, and we made a video about music and stuff. We made like two videos, he and I did, and then those are kind of like one-offs. I don't expect to see him come around and make more videos. If he wanted to, he's welcome to come back and do it again when we do it again. But unlike Amber and Anthony, I see them as excellent co-hosts for whatever little thing I'm doing. So I like to include them because they get good feedback from the audience, and I don't know, I like working with them.
Cool. Awesome. So tell me, like, do you have any message that you want to give over to people that are sort of lost in DSP land or something like that? Or it's all in good fun, the joking with that.
I mean, it's all in good fun in the sense that as a debate coach and as a TI tool user, I tend to think that vigorous argumentation is always all in good fun.
Yeah.
But a lot of times people don't really like to have their positions attacked.
Right.
And I recognize that. My message to anybody in DSP land is pretty straightforward, is that DSP is completely wrong and you should listen to me. But I understand that a lot of people aren't going to want to agree with that, and that's okay. Kim, that's going to get goo all out of the bottom of it. Don't put it right there.
Hi, Kim.
Hi, that's what we have for DSP stuff right there.
Oh, okay, that's what you're bringing it up for. Like, why the big pushback? Like, I understand how important it is for there to be pushback against things like this. Like, it's important to always question and do that kind of thing. So, like, I really appreciate that there's someone out there that's sort of trying to lead the charge. But like, why do you feel like that you need to take up the responsibility for that?
I mean, I don't. You asked me,
Oh,
right?
okay. Okay. No, I
I,
just noticed you're like trying to tear into it every so often in your videos. So
I mean,
good
look,
on
the
you
thing
for it,
is,
by the way.
okay, I guess you could say I'm trying to tear into it. I'm just responding to things on the fly as I encounter them.
Right.
It's not like I'm
Any stuff.
looking.
Yeah.
I'm not out there saying what kind of shit can I start this morning. It's
Right.
like I go on YouTube and there's some random link that catches my eye and I click it and I go, what's this bullshit? The hell? And then I make a response video. It's
Right.
just what happens. There's no plan of attack here. I don't have Dave superpowers on a bullseye on my wall throwing darts at his face or something. I don't care.
Can you turn the camera a bit so we can make sure that that's true?
I know.
No, it's okay. Just
I just have my little, which is going to Zandy, my
all
little
right.
my
Okay.
little corn guy there. He needs to go out to Zandy today. I got to
All right.
remember
Okay.
to
Cool.
yeah, so I mean, the thing is, the first person I actually attacked was C.S. Joseph
Yeah.
because I mean, I couldn't believe the fact that he continually was insisting that he was an ENTP when he obviously was not. And so I was just like, who the hell is this guy? And why in the world is anybody listening to him when he so clearly mistypes himself?
Right.
And, you know,
What's the biggest evidence you have for that? Like that he's been mistyped. Like you think it's really clear in your mind.
the fact that I see no extroverted intuition from him, he generates no new ideas. He just relates singular truth ideas that he's learned from his mentor.
Right.
There's nothing ENTP-ish about that at all. There's a
Right.
total lack of extroverted intuition. The counter-valued extroverted intuition. The horrible, horrible, uncreative, and unoriginal jokes, for example. I mean, there's countless reasons why he cannot possibly be an ENTP, none of which are actually typing him. I have not spoken to him. I have not formally typed him, so I
Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
say for sure. But as close to for sure as I can without actually typing somebody, C.S. Joseph is not, has never been, never will be, and should not stand near any ENTPs ever for the rest of his life.
Right. Do you enjoy doing that? Do you enjoy like tearing into things that you find that are sort of
Yeah,
contradictory? Yeah.
yeah, of course. But the thing is, I got some rules. Somebody's got to be bigger than me by a decent amount for me to really take off the
Really?
glove.
Okay.
If they're smaller than me, I leave the gloves on for sure. And if they're about the same size, I put on the medium gloves. It's
Okay.
only if like DSP is totally fair game. He's got like 20,000
For sure.
subscribers.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely fair game,
Yeah,
and it's
Joseph,
important.
fair game. He's got like 12,000 subscribers.
Right.
But like Joe Schmo, I'm not gonna beat him up if he's smaller than me because that's not cool. Now, type police is different. Type police, I will type police anybody. I don't care what size they are. If they mistype themselves, they're going to type jail.
Do you ask permission to do it, or you just do it?
What? No.
Okay.
I don't need permission. They're the one putting up videos saying they are something. They're opening themselves to critique.
Right. Okay. And like, do you always like honestly do type police, or do you sometimes just troll for like do you mistype people on purpose just to
No,
piss
I
them
don't.
off,
I
or
don't do that. No, I
no?
don't do that. I'm sometimes wrong with type police because I don't
Right.
give it a lot of. I don't give it a lot of time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
We're trying to make an entertaining episode. I'm not trying to really be absolutely sure I'm right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so I like, for example, I originally threw Love Lou in jail. Decided she was an ESTP eventually. I also threw Frank James in jail. Decided he was an INFJ eventually.
Oh, okay.
So lots of times I'm wrong in type police, but I'm never intentionally wrong.
Do you ever like put out a correction thing that they got out
Yeah,
of
I,
jail?
I have.
Okay.
I have on a few times. Yeah.
All right. Cool.
But
Awesome.
my point is, hey, I'm just the type police. I'm not the type district attorney. I'm not the type
Right.
judge. I'm not the type courts. I'm just the type police.
All
And
right.
and have
Yeah.
a wrongful arrest. It may have just been a mistake.
Yeah, so you got yourself protected on all sides there, so you can do whatever you want.
I got qualified immunity. Okay, I got qualified immunity. If I tase you a few too many times, it's okay.
Right. Okay, man. Cool. yeah, so I want to keep this short and sign off. But yeah, thanks a lot, man, for coming out. I really appreciate it. Good to finally talk to you and hang out a bit.
My pleasure. Nice talking with you too.
Yeah, awesome. Take care.
All right, bye.